What is the most useless weapon in video game history? The Finger of the Mountain spell from Oblivion. This is an AoE shock damage spell that you can acquire during one of the Mage's Guild quests. The damage of the spell scales up based on the level at which you acquire the spell, but so does the magicka cost, horribly. The highest level of the spell is pretty much impossible to cast unless you have destruction level to 100 and a huge amount of fortify magicka boosts. What makes this particular spell especially useless is that you can create custom spells with the exact same effects and magnitude that use less than half as much magicka as their FOTM counterparts. Arguably true for every magic spell in that game. I missed the magic crafting system of Oblivion when I played Skyrim, but at the same time you could make some ridiculously powerful spells that basically broke the game. Fallout 4's Gal Slayer Gamma Gun does 50% more damage against gals. Gamma guns only uses radiation for damage, which gals are immune to. In the first Dead Rising you can enter a cinema and grab a bucket of popcorn. You can then hit zombies with it. It doesn't really damage them, but it's funny. It is quite useless as a weapon though. 95% of the items you can pick up in Dead Rising are useless weapons just there for the WTF response. I forget which Elder Scrolls game it was, but the Dagger of Friendship deals 10 damage per hit, heals 10 damage on target per hit. I suspect Sheogorath was involved somehow. Dark Souls 2 Soup Ladle. To be fair, some people figured out how to make it into an actual weapon and proceeded to beat down anyone lot good in their war. It's like seeing a naked bro running through the game. He knows what he's doing with that soup ladle and he will mess you up. The scariest opponents online are never fully armored with huge endgame weapons. They're naked, with a ladle and parry dagger. Sleep ability in any Kirby game, or the one in the Crystal Shards where you just burst into flames and run around uncontrollably. Clob from GoldenEye 007. Just an absolute piece of Sugarth that did hardly any damage whatsoever. You can wield two of them at the same time, and they still take like 80 bullets to kill one dude. And naturally, they are very plentiful and often the only gun with reliable amounts of ammo available in certain stages. The Clob's existence is justified by the fact that you can tell your friends you've been clobbered when they shamefully get killed by one. The China Lake from Black Ops. Dear God, you could direct impact someone and they would just be mildly inconvenienced. The anti-gadoid gun in Dying Light. It was a gun that you received from a pain in the ass side mission, and it does absolutely no damage. Turns out the dude that gave it to you was a conspiracy theory nut and developed a gun to disintegrate lizard people which don't exist in the game at all, rendering your reward for the quest completely useless. Cure Paralyze on self spell in Morrowind. Cloak of Invisibility from Wizards and Warriors on the Northeasts. It turned your color palette completely black. However, your enemies would still see you and attack you on screen. This was particularly awesome when there was a black background. Then, you couldn't see yourself while enemies attacked you. Minecraft Gold Sword. Less durability than a wooden one, and does the same damage. Terraria's starting copper short sword. I have way too much time in that game. Around 1k hours. I used to play it a lot with friends, and I can definitively say that any of the other tools you get to start are better than the sword. It does slightly more damage and attacks slightly faster than the tools you get, but is crippled by the nature of the game. Terraria plays like a platformer during most combat, and the short sword has a cripplingly poor reach. Additionally, the biggest threats early game are these flying IA enemies that will attack from at angles where the copper short sword can't do anything. The axe you start with is far better, with a much longer reach and an ability to actually hit enemies above you. That wind gun you have to craft in Boat 2 Zombies on Transit. It's reminiscent of the thunder gun but utter trash. You have to follow all of these Easter egg steps to get it to. Utter disappointment. In Borderlands 2, the Tunguska PLS rocket launcher. It had a unique projectile arc and a giant mushroom cloud. Problem was that the unique projectile arc made it so that 4 out of 5 times the rocket landed within range of the mushroom cloud. So it killed you. And even if it did go well, then it wasn't even that good of a rocket launcher compared to a Nukem or an Orfleet, which were 2 tiers lower in rarity. Not the most useless weapon of all time. but definitely one of the most disappointing ones when you consider that most weapon types only had one pearlescent version available. So to have that weapon class purely be completely useless was a major letdown. Something similar can be said about the Godfina sniper rifle. Its projectile did more damage the further it traveled, which sounds cool on paper, but in practice it was completely useless compared to its a machine gun that says sniper on the label sniper, such as the Lyuda, which is again 2 rarity tiers lower. A lot of the pearlescent items in BL2 were pretty underwhelming, but these two took the cake. In fact, I think around half of the top 5x weapons in Borderlands were Blue Quest rewards, but at least that made it easier to make high-end builds. Whatever my teammates are holding, or in my case, whatever I'm holding. What if your teammates are holding you? Tiffing, the Cursed Blade in Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, takes your damage output to -27 of what bare hand punching would be. Honorable mention goes to Topspin in Mega Man 3, effective for a grand total of 1.6 seconds in the entire game. Granted, it's borderline impossible to beat the game without it. Broken Straight Sword from Dark Souls 3, it's like any other straight sword, but with way less damage and awful range. If we are counting community created content, I'd say the Iron Cat gun in Gar is mod/TTT, because it does almost no damage, is annoying as hell, and is almost guaranteed to expose you as a traitor. Back in Diablo 1 for the PS1, they programmed in only a few of the magical items with negative magic effects. One of these was the useless Battle Axe of Corruption. It did -100% damage and kept your mana empty, no matter how many potions you drank. Using this you dealt literally no damage and couldn't cast any spells. All you could do is take hits and use health potions and scrolls. I imagine you could probably find this item in Diablo 1 for PC, but the item gen engine on PC was better, so you were less likely to receive this, since it wasn't pre-programmed in. Speaking of Diablo 1, friendly fire was on, of course. I didn't find that out until I had spent hours leveling up a sorcerer in single player to finally unlock the awesome room clearing Might of Chain Lightning, only to learn that it would also clear my friends out in multiplayer. The Wanderlust from Borderlands 2, a gun where the bullets go anywhere except where you're aiming. Sure, it has very niche uses, like with 400 anarchy stacks gauge or shooting from behind cover/around corners, but it's such a pain in the ass and you never know what you're going to hit or when. My favorite gun in Borderlands is the one where while shooting it, you have a chance to drop it on the ground. Slippery when wet was the description. Cursed Eye from the Binding of Isaac. The only thing worse than that is Tiny Planet from Boy. Tiny Planet has some great synergies like Lump of Coal, which can melt enemies. Cursed Eye is not only useless, it can destroy a great run by lowering your DPS and then adding the risk of teleporting you out of a very long fight. The pistol in Halo 2. It was as if the damn thing fired BBs. Oh, but could we get a round of applause for that magnum in Halo, say anyone? Edit. Okay, I concede the pistol was a semi-decent weapon when dual wielded alone. However, was a far different story. Yes, the pistol in Halo 2 felt like a wet fart compared to Halo 1, even when dual wielding. That's intentional because the Halo 1 pistol was a sniper rifle and a pistol in one. But the pistol in Halo 2 is good if you have a second gun that kills the overshield quickly, allowing the pistol to be effective. I personally found the experimental MIRV from Fallout 3 and 4 useless. Yeah, it can vaporize everything in an instant, but mini nukes are so rare and expensive that it's not worth it. Mega Mac from Sonic 2. It's supposed to be poisonous, but it isn't, because it kills Sonic in exactly the same way as regular water. The Machete in Far Cry 2. Even on normal difficulty, it's not a one-hit kill. Enemies will fall to the ground wounded, yell and alert everyone. i.e., it's the only weapon that is guaranteed to alert the entire camp to your presence. Worse than a fucking machine gun. And then you have to go through another lengthy, hardwired animation to finish them off, or else they'll get back up. The Potato in Killing Floor 1. Soldering Iron from Dark Souls 3. I thought it looked kick-ass as an offhand weapon, so I leveled it to +9 immediately. Hot garbage would be putting it nicely. Always bothered me that the weapon is actually branding iron, not a soldering iron. Earthworm Jim's bubble gun came here to say this. Always thought maybe there was some hidden use for it, but nope, it's useless 100%. That's why that game is so groovy. Spring hammer in bow TW. 1 HP. Just for sending enemies flying. There's a Skyrim mod called the Force Bow. It does 0 damage, but the arrow is like unrelenting Force X10. If you shoot an enemy in Riften, you may very well find them in Markarth, still very much alive and angry. Fable had a frying pan. It was introduced to the game at a stage when there were already way more impressive weapons freely available. That one cursed weapon in Borderlands 2 that mimics a sick harlot screaming whenever it's red. It's powerful, but it also slows you down to a crawl. The screaming is bad that you basically have to mute it to play. Edit. My highest rated comment is about an annoying Borderlands 2 gun. I've made it y'all. Red Rust in Castlevania, Symphony of the Night. I'm sure there are far more useless weapons in that game, but that one is the most obvious. After getting all your gear snatched by death, it's the second weapon you find right after the short sword. It's slower, to my recollection, doesn't deal much more damage, and effectively lowers your defense since it's two-handed. The only advantage it grants is its range. Simply, it sucks. Any grey or white weapon, after about level 3 in World of Warcraft, short of getting an easy few gold from a vendor, they literally serve no useful purpose. Any of the yo-yos from Earthbound, they can do some damage, but only 20% of the time. They also can't get smashing hits, so it's best to avoid them. The Day Katana. It leaves any enemy it hits at 1 HP. It cannot kill. In a game built around killing enemies and dodging rather than tanking damage, it's a melee weapon that can't kill and has a slow ass swing speed. One of the old instances in WoW Vanilla has these claws that when combined, has a chance on hit to turn the wielder into this giant cat guy and do crazy damage / look cool. Except they sucked outside of that one cool ability. I wish they actually did any decent damage plus stats, because I would love to run around squanching out. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.